Hi, everyone, and welcome to our virtual event where we're going to dive into affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, and how those channels are converging. I'm joined by two brilliant and powerful women who I will let introduce themselves. But first, hello, my name is Christy Garcia. I'm the CMO of Impact.com, the leading partnership management platform. I've been around for about 6 years and absolutely love this topic, and I'm really excited to dive in. Before we do, another quick note, we won't have Q&A following this webinar, but feel free to share your questions via the chat functionality, and we'll address them as best we can post-event in a follow-up content piece. So feel free to ask those hard-hitting questions. Now, let's meet our panelists. Very excited here. Jen, let's start with you and then move to Whitney.
Yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Impact. My name is Jen Bentz. I have over 23 years experience in the online marketing space. The last 6 years I've been at Resident Home. We are a family of mattress brands, most well known for Nectar and DreamCloud. I'm currently the VP of Affiliates, Influencers, and Partnerships. Excited to be here.
Sounds like you are very relevant to this conversation. Moving on to Whitney.
Yeah, thank you, Impact, for having me and to be with you as well, Jen, and learn from you. I'm Whitney, and I lead our global affiliate and influencer business for Amazon Music. I've been in the affiliate industry for 10 years, but in the commerce industry for over 18 years. I'm really excited to be part of this discussion.
Excellent. Well, let's get started then. I'm going to ask you both the same question. Just to give our listeners a little context, can you provide some background on how your teams have traditionally leveraged influencers and affiliates, and walk us through what the evolution of this merge or convergence looks like at your organization?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So for us, we started out as a traditional affiliate program where we worked with the coupon sites, the loyalty sites, SEM sites, and then content sites. With mattresses, it's very, we've got a particular kind of content site. They're called mattress review sites. So they were posting reviews on mattresses. They would send these mattresses to a lab and they had a whole testing procedure. And they would give that information to the user getting ready to buy. What's the best mattress for a side sleeper? If you're a back sleeper, if you're a stomach sleeper, how's the edge support on that mattress? It was just so very detailed to help guide that consumer to what type of mattress to buy. So we found that we wanted to start seeing some videos on what happens afterwards, because it's a bed in the box. People don't really understand what a bed in the box is. They can't comprehend that it's rolled up really tight and it's in a bag, and how does it expand into a big mattress? So we said, why don't we start working with influencers? So we did that. We started working with influencers and we would send them a mattress, and we wanted that experience. We wanted that experience when they opened that door and they brought that mattress in, they pushed it up the stairs, either by themselves or with help. They opened it with an envelope. We provide a little envelope opener. They open it with that envelope opener and it shows them rolling it out. So we did that to educate that consumer on what it looks like afterwards. And then we noticed that those videos are working great, and we wanted to work with these content creators again. So we said, let's offer them commission. What if we offer them commission and send them a different type of product to entice them to go again? And that's really where we saw it merge, and we had to track it all through Impact. So we had to convince them to sign up to Impact. 3-4 years ago, a lot of these influencers didn't know what Impact was. They didn't know what affiliate marketing was. So it was a lot of training that we had to do. And now you don't really see that problem. A lot of these influencers, they're very, very well aware of affiliate marketing. And yeah, now they're one, and affiliate marketing is the norm.
Well, it sounds like it was educational for everybody. You leveraged influencers to educate your audience, and you educated the influencers on things like affiliate marketing. So that's really interesting. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I think it's such a really exciting time, I think, in our industry. Historically, affiliates were primarily web content publishers working off their owned and operated sites, and then influencers were typically a single personality driving traffic to their audience across social platforms. And I think right now, with the way of consumer shopping and how we're seeing a shift across social platforms and how people are taking product recommendations across social, the trends for this traffic is converging, as we know. And to your point, influencers are becoming more savvier with the affiliate technology, and the affiliate technology is kind of the only way that you can scalably pay and reward influencers for the incentives that they deliver. So for me, it's right now is the time to get on board if you're not on board. And I definitely feel like there is a gap in the industry on how teams work cross org to scale this segment. I think teams are still working in silos, and there's confusion around sort of should the affiliate team own influencers, because typically we've been kind of a bottom funnel channel. And one of the things that I've noticed that I think teams should take advantage of is that because there is this convergence and it's here today, is that we should be looking at this in two ways in terms of how we're working with creators, which is having a full funnel approach and being okay with the fact that we're tracking engagement and acquisition KPIs outside of just acquisition only, because I think they're both extremely valuable in this segment of partner. And then also leaning into the affiliate channel as kind of that lightweight capability to track and pay and incentivize influencers for the value that they generate to your business. And we were really excited this year to sort of bridge that gap with launching our Amazon Music for Influencers portal and creating sort of one entry point for our customers and one entry point for our marketing managers as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it sounds like you kind of touched on the topic too around influencers and full funnel. I know historically they've been sort of seen as the introducers or educators, but in a lot of way they're driving sales at the bottom of the funnel now too. So kind of leading into my next question, which is what are some of the benefits that you found working with these different groups?
Yeah, I'll start on this one. It's yeah, we've gone through with the different groups, we've gone through many approaches. With influencers specifically, the first benefit was we wanted to get that engagement. It was very top of funnel. We wanted to get the engagement and we got it. But then we said, okay, now we need to see if they can become bottom of the funnel and see if we can get some revenue. Unfortunately, with that $1,000 mattress, it wasn't happening. The price of the product is just too much. So we had to pivot a little bit and we said, okay, what can we do to prove some revenue out? Because the content's so good. So we decided to leverage that content for our paid media content in our ads. So our paid media team started to use these UGC, the UGC stuff, and it was working. We found that it was working. So that's when we pivoted our approach and we said, okay, let's just start focusing and bringing get as much good content as we can for our paid social ads so that we have a library of content that we could use for all different holidays throughout the year. So showed promise, and we're still doing that as well today.
I think that's cool that you touched on user generated content. I mean, using that in your own advertising is really powerful because it's another person saying that this product is good, right? Or this mattress is the one.
And it has that authentic voice as well. So it's great.
It's all authentic. Yeah, that's a real smart way to market. Whitney, what about you? What have you seen as benefits?
Yeah, and I think honestly, it's pretty similar to what you said, Jen. And you know, I can't emphasize this enough, and I'll hit on it throughout the day today, is just partnership automation. You know, automating your influencer flywheel is the best way for your organization, whether you're big or small. And I think that, you know, you're doing three big things when you have this in place. It's like you're enabling the ability to provide global tracking across social apps, because I think depending on your product and customer experience, you can have really complex journeys, especially with like deep linking. And influencers are not going to create content if they're not getting paid for it. And I feel like our channel is more powerful than ever because we can actually track that for them. Allowing flexible payment options depending on like how many countries your program is in. Payments can get really complex, and we have the ability to automate that, especially if you're looking at onboarding agencies at scale. You don't want to have to set up manual purchase orders with influencer partnerships. You want to be able to scale payments. And then I think also, kind of to your point, Jen, that I think you hit on too, it's like I think of it as like a grab and go platform. Like you're at the grocery store and you grab what you need. Like we are creating kind of one platform for influencers to come get the priority content and scale that, and they know what they're going to get in return because everything is organized in one place. And I think we've also experienced just the power of hybrid compensation models. So having the ability to pay, you know, bounty, commission, and then flat fee on top of that, and be able to kind of negotiate rates and save on costs. This also comes into play with like your brand team, partnerships with like the paid social team. So we've recently worked with our paid social team on paid amplification and, organic content that we think is performing really well and successful. You can amplify that and build a stronger relationship with like your top performing influencers as well. And it's just great all around to be able to leverage all these techniques with influencers today.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you brought up payment, because that is a huge conversation. That is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to influencer marketing and affiliate marketing. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But question back to Whitney. Let's take a moment to dive deeper into how this shift is creating that full funnel impact that we spoke about. How should marketers approach leveraging both affiliates and influencers to drive return on investment from brand awareness all the way down to sales?
Yeah, I know that's a loaded question. I think, from a from a from a high level perspective, I think I probably sound like a broken record today, but you really need, the technology and the platform to organize it all and to show the value of the full funnel content. Because if you can't track it, and if you can't, let's say you don't have a tech stack that you can use today, there are manual ways that you can go around this that I've been a part of as well. But you really need to have, that one entry point for your partners to find your brand, understand it, and to really build a community. And what does that look like for you, like big or small? I think influencers have a business to run, and we know that they're often a one-man show. And so we have to make sure that the back end of what we're sharing with them is not too complicated, and that the front end appears to be authentic, and they can relate to it, and it speaks to them. And I think when us having our custom portal has helped with that, because we're not speaking to influencers like their affiliates. And granted, they are getting more savvier with that, but we're actually talking to them, and their understanding. I also think it helps that, the brand and creator team was scaling paid placements to subsidize costs. Like I said earlier, some influencers, depending on the size, can be very expensive, and that shouldn't stop everyone from working with them. I think it's like finding your niche of like what produces for you. Is it nano? Is it mid-tier influencers? And then kind of just taking those learnings and go. But if you have the right technology, you can really amplify and pivot to what's working.
Yeah, I agree with that. But when it comes to what's working, here's a question. What is the measurement you're looking at for influencer marketing? What are the signals of success? What are the metrics that you're looking at to say, okay, this did work?
Yeah, I think something that's been probably the most difficult for me when I kind of first started doing this is that something we're not used to evaluating as like a bottom funnel channel, is that we, not taking into account engagement actions. So like likes, comments, shares, views, all of those elements are really important to what you're doing. And the icing on the cake is obviously conversions and revenue, and we all want that. But there's various pieces of the sales cycle that come into play with influencers. And I think if you're not seeing revenue right away, it doesn't mean that it's not successful. It means that you need to maybe adjust your content strategy or have stronger tracking in place, because sales might happen, 30, 60, 90 days after the fact. And that's okay, because you're going after broad audiences with influencers too. So it's not like, and targeting is something that's even difficult in our channel anyway. And not, we don't work the same way as like other paid channels. But I think that's been probably the hardest part. So you should consider what I recommend is taking a look at what your per post run rates are to determine what is successful, and maybe benchmark that against, what you're seeing across some mass media or content blog sites, to say, okay, is this in line with what I'm saying, like sort of from a top funnel perspective, and then double down on what's working. And then you'll start to see growth, because you'll take those learnings and apply them, and you'll realize that, wow, it's a numbers game. It is quality over quantity. But at the same time, if you have more advocates, then all of those KPIs add up, and all those engagements add up, and they turn into sales in the long run. So my advice would be, just don't be afraid to take a risk and test and learn. And you might have to test like 10 different pieces of content before you find a winner. And then once you do find a winner, you just start building off of that, and you really start to see growth.
And I think to your point, Whitney, that's important. Don't be afraid to test. And I think having a budget helps. So like have a monthly budget so that you are able to test different types of influencers And that's what we've gotten that lately, and that's helped a lot. So we haven't been afraid. It took away that like feeling of fear.
Yeah,
taking-
diversify your content or diversify the creators that you're working with, right? Those are
Yep.
two different ways you can optimize your program. Jen.
And
let's
I
talk-
think too, oh, sorry, Christy,
Oh,
I
no,
think too,
please,
just to
please go ahead. Please go
just to
ahead.
like reiterate on the like the testing and learning and yeah, the fear factor, it's like I think the beauty of having sort of centralized platform is that you have self-serve terms and conditions. And so with a click of a button, all of your partners are signing these terms, so they have to hold true to your brand, and you sort of it alleviates the worry of like, are they going to say the right thing on their social channels, because they know they have to follow our guidelines. And so you kind of go from there, and then obviously lead with like approved content for your company. But I think that was a big key factor too for us, is just making sure we had all of our guidelines in place, the terms and conditions, and then giving, you know, sort of the creative reign to our creators to do what they do best.
And that's a fine line too, right? Between brand protection and brand equity and all of those things that we care about as marketers, and giving someone else the right to talk about your brand without being overly prescriptive, but yet
Yeah.
with enough guidance that it makes sense, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Question for Jen. How are influencers driving return on investment for your brand? You shared a specific strategy with me around the products
Yeah.
you inject into your influencer campaigns. Do you want to share that with the audience?
Yeah, so for us, it's because we're so top of funnel right now, the ROI, that when we look at ROI, it's mainly for user generated content, right? For our paid social ads. So we'll look at what's the usability of these ads. And then that's how we know if we want to keep working with that influencer or that type of influencer and content creator. So we really look at that usability, like what's the rate of use? If we got 100 ads and we want to make sure that at least 20% of that is actually usable. So we do have to get a bunch of ads, and we're constantly working to get a bunch, but at least if we have 20%, it drives that, it fills that funnel up for us to keep testing. In addition to that, we do test different types of products. So we do have, mainly it's mattresses, right? But if we find that something is working with that influencers created some great content, we're going to also test adjustable bases with them, foundations and pillows, really anything around in that bedroom that revolves around sleep, to see how that also resonates with that end user. So that's really our goal, is to work with that same influencer over and over again, so that audience sees, okay, they have a mattress. Okay, now they've got a pillow. Now they've got a bed. So they got everything for the bedroom. So that's our ultimate goal.
Right. And I know you talked about UGC, but when you're working specifically with influencers on their own content, how do you get buy-in from influencers to work on bottom funnel campaigns versus top of funnel ones?
Yeah, so really for us, it was, like I said, we talked about top of funnel. That's where the focus on top of funnel is. We want to focus on lower price. Sorry, we got that AOV, the high AOV, the $1,000 product. So now we said, okay, we want to focus on a lower price product. Maybe that's going to work. So we do have a $1,000 mattress, but we also have a $200 mattress. Maybe that's more of an impulse buy than $1,000. $1,000 is way too much, right? Because the typical pattern of that consumer will look like they saw maybe a influencer post, then they went and did a Google search because they're not ready to buy. Then they go see, they hit a mattress review site. Then maybe they go to a YouTube video. They might wait a couple weeks, and then they've talked to their partner and be like, okay, now I'm ready to buy. So they search it again. They go to an SEM ad. So now we've lost the tracking as well for that customer, because we weren't with Creator at that time. Now we are, so we can see, so hopefully see all that. So we want to say, if somebody posts in a story, you've got 24 hours. Can we sell them in 24 hours with a price that is $200? So we've been doing that. We've been focusing on mom influencers and focusing really on $200. Maybe that's what we'll spend for a kid, a big kid bed. And we've tested that with, I don't know, 5 or 6 creators so far, and we're showing some promise with a couple of them. So it's pretty interesting. And so we're going to keep sending them these mattresses, and we haven't had to pay any of these people yet because they just want that free mattress. But we will start to do that again. So now the second time we're going to have to pay them because they already have the mattress and we want them to talk about it again. So we're not ROI positive yet, but we're seeing some signs of potentially maybe with a script change or something, we can become ROI positive. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, some respect from me regarding all of the experimentation you guys are doing to optimize your program. That's what you have to do. You have to try all the new
Yeah.
things. Sounds like some of them are paying off for you. Okay, new topic for Whitney. With the rise of this convergence, we've seen the explosion of creator commerce. So that's the strategy in which creators influence consumers to make the purchasing decision via discussing the product on their social channels. How have you seen this convergence disrupt how brands conduct e-commerce, Whitney?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wild just how there has been such a big shift across social. And I mean, I think all of us can attest to being on the apps and finding product. And I find I spend less when I'm not looking at my app, so I try to not turn them on so much. But I think that you know, brands, I'm starting to notice more brands having, creating these custom experiences for influencers as like a single entry point to avoid, teams working in silos. Cause I think this is a very big segment that should just be a collaborative approach across the board because shopping is shifting across social apps.
Sure.
I think that because of younger generations too, I mean, Gen Z is the largest shopping cohort in the global economy, and they speak to Gen Z. And so if you're not kind of showing up there with this convergence, then you're leaving your brand behind. And I think that we need to start thinking about this more as like a community building exercise for your organization, but it's a community building with everyone involved and not just one channel. One channel like us, for example, with affiliate, we can track, scale, and pay for everything, but it's a collaborative approach in terms of the content and what you're trying to deliver to build that community. So I think that the more that you're connected with internal teams and the more that you lean in, the better, so that we can reach the audiences that we need to reach to be successful, and finding the right partners who are advocates for your brand as well.
Yeah, and I love how you talk about communities. And I was in a conference where the person on stage was saying that communities are the new demographic, right? Like it
Yeah.
used to be that you were looking for a particular type of buyer, now you're looking to get into the community. It's a huge shift in how things used to be, but it's true that brands that aren't doing this really will get left behind. Jen, with the rise of creator commerce, what advice do you have for driving long-lasting and sustainable relationships with affiliate and creators? It's important that you're not just doing one-off campaigns, and that the longer-term relationships that you have with influencers and affiliates, like the better off the performance is actually going to be. But are there any key differences you've observed in approaching these relationships?
Yeah, I mean, they're very, very different from each other. You've got your if affiliates are, it's just what I'm used to is working with affiliates, and our goal at the end of the day is really building relationships with both. Influencers are a whole different breed and creators are a different breed. So it's interesting working with them separately, but the goal for affiliates is to really build that relationship. But the goal for affiliates or for influencers, influencers is to also build affiliates. There's a difference with what kind of content we want from them, and a difference of a difference on how we work with them. With affiliates, the content is heavily focused on how to find the right mattress for their sleeping position. So it's education before purchase. Influencers is focused on product after delivery. So really, when we find that influencer, we want to find someone that we can, they're really easy to work with so that we can work with them over and over again. And we've heard this from creators as well. They want to find brands that they don't just work one-off with. They want to stick with a brand and keep working with and provide that content. So when you have that good relationship, you'll find that the content you're getting from them is fantastic. So they want to provide you good content. They don't want to just be one and done. They're saying, okay, they'll send it to us and they'll be like, okay, what do you guys think? Is there something that we can change? And when we're very open with them about it, we'll find that even though it's a pain in the butt, they'll go and reshoot something for us. Or even like the mattress, right? So the mattress, when you unroll it, sometimes it can get wrinkled. So we'll go and they'll forget to steam it. There are some rules in there, like, can you please steam the mattress so it looks good? No one really notices that after fact, right? Because you put a mattress cover on it and you don't see it again. And it does take time to rise. That's why there's wrinkles. So we'll go back to him and be like, I know you just shot this, but can you please, do you mind for the video production, like just steam that a little bit? Most of the time they're totally fine because they want to put their best foot forward. And it's also their work that's appearing online. So
Right.
yeah, so it's definitely different. It's been interesting working with both. Definitely interesting.
I bet. No, they're distinctly different, even though there is
Totally.
some convergence. They're still very different in a
Yeah.
lot. One of the ways actually is payment. So I'll ask both of you this question, but start with Jen. What advice do you have for marketers regarding paying influencers across the funnel?
Yeah, so for us, we started off with really not paying our influencers because the value of that mattress, like we get people reaching out to us. So we're lucky enough where we're not having to go and search too much for creators. We have a flood of emails of just people asking for it. They want a free mattress, right? But they'll produce that good work to get that free mattress. So we're really paying with product. Lately, we have been, because of the content that we want's a little bit different, we have been paying them with flat fees as well. So not only flat fees for that first time, sometimes we'll pay a flat fee, but then that second time we work with them, we're going to offer them commission. And what we're finding is let's offer them both and see what the ROI is. The one area that we use to find this, to see if it's actually converting for us, is the contribution reports in impact, because we don't always see it may not have an immediate effect. And I know, Whitney, I think you said it too. They might come back 30 to 60 days later and buy. That's where you can see it, is in the contribution reports, is really finding that influencer and looking at that customer path. And you will find that, yes, they did. They came back 30 days later and they bought. They came back 60 days later. Influencer may not be the very first touch point. They might be in the middle. They might be at the end. They might be somewhere in there. So definitely don't be scared to look at those reports, because it'll really it'll bring a lot up to the surface, and then you can decide how are you going to pay that person going forward. Maybe you want to pay them on first click. Now, if you're worried that they're not going to click, then try stories, because usually they do click in stories. If you find that or maybe last click works, or maybe you want to pay somewhere in the middle, in that middle of the funnel. So that's just really the power that contribution report has. It just gives you so much information.
That's great. And yes, so flat fee is a big part of influencer marketing, not a big part of affiliate marketing. So very different. What about you, Whitney? How are you thinking about payment across the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, I think just having access to the data is so important, right? It's like seeing that full funnel approach versus like the bottom funnel into everything, pretty much Jen said times 10. You know, for us, it's everything from like the hybrid incentives to maybe some more like fun incentives across like concerts and things like that. But for the most part, you know, we stick to the basics of bounty and flat fee, but then at the same time, understanding what the ROI is with that partner. And we're starting to kind of build influencers based off audience too. I think that's like a big win for us as well, is that our goal is to obviously get to a place where we know what influencer performs well against certain content. And then based off of that, we can really build sort of a tiered structure on what that looks like in terms of payments. But I think without the data that you have, like the last click or, you know, whatever click it may be, I think that it makes it hard to really save or scale your program.
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge component of it. And we know that full funnel, especially bottom of funnel tracking and ROI, are a significant value add. But what exactly does access to this data mean for marketers? And I'll let whoever wants to take that one jump on.
Yeah, I'll take that. So really the full funnel tracking is huge for us, especially because our product requires so much research before making that purchase. But it's like I said, use the data that you have available to you. Like Whitney said, it is so important to have that data. And that's why we chose the platforms that we chose, the tech stack that we chose, because we wanted that data. And Whitney, similar to you, we want to see that data. We want to get to a point to see the data on engagement stats, not only just engagement, but also sales, right? But what kind of creator got the best engagement? It could be a mom, it could be a fitness person, it could be female, male, someone that's showing their kids. a pink room, a blue room, a red room. So we actually go in and we tag everything. So we'll go through and we'll tag all different types of content so that at some point we'll get to that point exactly to see like my dream is to have a dashboard that says, oh my gosh, everyone with a pink bedroom brought in the most engagement and it was amazing. And then, oh my gosh, you showed an American flag and that did really well. Whatever it may be, that's where we need to get to. So that also helps you with your recruitment as well. If you have a certain type of campaign, be like, okay, well, this group of influencers did so well. So now we know who to go after in the future. But really, it allows you to make really informed decisions. So for your future campaigns.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I know. And to Jen, to your point too, it's like to be able to categorize influencers is so powerful, and it's something you can do with the technology that we chose as well. But I think just maybe hitting on what Jen didn't discuss, but she pretty much hits everything, is just that, I think we all know that today's buyer is more informed than ever. And having that full funnel tracking visibility just helps not only our team, like from the affiliate side, but all teams. And those engagement HVAs are super powerful and important, and you should be tracking those, and you should know your run rates. And I think also diving deeper into, the social platforms themselves, and where are you getting the best reach or bang for your dollar across what platform, and what content. Like, we know that content lasts 24 hours across Instagram and TikTok, but then YouTube lasts, 4 months lifespan or more. And so, like, what is I think people should be looking at this from like an evergreen strategy perspective of like always ongoing content, and then, strategic promotional moments as well, because this is an engine that doesn't sleep, and it should be viewed as like just content daily, just constantly going while we're sleeping, is the way that we should all sort of look at this. And the data obviously helps us make those decisions.
Yeah. And to the consumer, it's all seamless, right? They're just getting information, they're looking. But to us, there's a whole method across the board. I think that's really. So let's focus on another equally important area that we haven't talked about. With every disruption, there are pros and cons. So what have some of the biggest pain points been for you both? And what solutions can you share with other marketers?
Yeah, for us, it's really, there's a few pain points, but I'll give you the biggest pain point that we have found. Because we're such an ROI driven company, when we first started this, we're like, okay, let's give all these creators a vanity code. And we're going to give them a vanity code. It's going to be great. They're going to post it on Instagram and their stories and their actual posts. And let's see what happens. Well, we found out what happens. So we saw a bunch of sales, not like right after their post, but like maybe a month after their post. We're like, okay, how can this be? This person posted a while ago. How all of a sudden they got $20,000 in commission? Well, we found out after digging in, doing some research, and this didn't happen one or two times, it happened several times. The codes were getting leaked, right? They were getting leaked on discussion boards, they were getting leaked on coupon sites. It was kind of all over the place. So we had to pause that, deactivate that coupon code. And then unfortunately, we had to reverse the commission. In some cases, because we knew it wasn't the influencer's fault, that we tried to work with them on what we can reverse without tarnishing that relationship. But yeah, we would see. So then we have to start looking. We were constantly looking in the reports. If there were big spikes in commission, we would have to find that vanity code, pull that vanity code off. Now, our solution has been to get rid of the vanity codes. So far, we don't do long-term ones anymore. So now what we're doing is we're only offering vanity codes for stories, and we only keep them active for 24 hours. Now, it's working great. We're not getting any leaks, but it's just a lot of manual work right now. So we're just trying to figure out how do we automate this now.
Yeah.
But watch out for that one, because
That's a challenge. It's a challenge.
yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of solutions out there to track that, but
Yeah.
something for. And Whitney, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I know you guys are going to get sick of me saying this: partnership automation. Having the platform that we have today. I mean, you solve the problem for influencers and creators, and also the marketers in your organization. We are providing, an end-to-end portal that is connecting the dots for discovery, campaign management, audience and content matching, And we're collaborating across all major social platforms with tools and content sharing capabilities that we never had before. And when you do that, you're enabling your influencers to activate and introduce new audiences to your brand. You're keeping your brand front of mind with a steady stream of shared editorial content, and you're converting new audiences into customers. So you're really enabling your entire organization to have sort of this self-serve experience. And it doesn't have to be, if you don't have a big organization, you have a small, it still allows you to be cohesive across the board. And I think the other pain point has just been, maybe not seeing the revenue right away. And I think depending on the products that you represent, it can be really tricky, right? I'm a subscription business. I'm not selling sunglasses. So, there's a lot of complexity there. And I think having the access to sort of that downstream awareness has helped us be able to, ask for more budget, build out more plans, forecast, that sort of thing, to show sort of the full picture value. And then I think just hitting on it again is just like continuing to test content full funnel, understand it, and incorporate that into your entire ecosystem of like different marketing managers. It doesn't have to just come from your organization.
You are such a pioneer. I know I've said that before, Whitney, but you really are. And Jen, you are too. I mean, this is like cutting edge strategy stuff. Most brands haven't even figured out how to get it right. Here you are offering solutions to challenges that you've experienced. And I think it's really cool, really helpful for people because a lot of stuff isn't understood. So let's dive a little bit more into detail, Jen. Let's get tactical so we can help our viewers paint a picture of what this really looks like. What advice can you offer marketers to get started on merging these programs and implementing both influencer and affiliate strategies? Because we know this requires more than just a few collaborative campaigns, right? It's not one-off. It's a system. So how do you get started doing that? What are some tips?
Yeah, so just speaking from our experience is really getting a good foundation set up first. You'll need to know what metrics you're looking for, right? So figure out what metrics that you want to track so that you know what tech stack that you're looking for. Get a process, in addition to that, you want to get a process in place on how you're going to recruit your influencers and affiliates. Is it a form on your website? Is it using a marketplace to search? Is it manually searching on social platforms? Which, by the way, that's what we do. We found that is the best way to find a really good creator, is just searching, scouring the social platforms. Contract. This is so important. You want to get that contract in place. You want to figure out, do you want to own that creative from that creator, or do you want to own the rights for a certain time frame? Do they get paid for sales that they bring in, or are you paying a flat fee, or is it a little bit of both? Is there a certain time that you should wait before they work with your competitor? That's also a huge one too. You want to make sure that's in there, because once a competitor kind of sees that you're working with it, they want to want that same type of content. Vetting. This is probably the most important aspect, is vetting. And I'm sure, Whitney, you go through this as well, is we've learned from many mistakes. You want to avoid cleanup later on. So get that vetting process in place. Campaign briefs. Then you want to decide, what kind of campaign are you looking to run? Is it product unboxing? Is it product reviews, demonstrations, giveaways? And make sure in that campaign brief, you are giving that creator the exact thing that you want to see. Give them some good guidelines, give them examples of what you want. So that prevents you from going back and having to reshoot. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then find that right tech stack that, just like what Whitney said, just automate. You get a right technology in place, this will all be there for you.
Yeah, that's great. Whitney, let's talk about something you are the poster child for, team operations. How have you seen the teams at Amazon Music, such as social, PR, maybe even different regions, function differently as a result of this convergence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're too kind here. I think that, what I've realized is we all speak a different language. Like, I'm speaking English right now, but like speaking affiliate versus speaking brand versus speaking all these other channels is very different. And so for me, I've had to take a step back, and I think it's the same way we showcase and we speak to influencers too, right? They're not affiliates. So I've had to take a step back and say, okay, I understand this. I kind of get what everyone else does, and I don't need to know everything. But here's what I do know, and here's what I see, and here's what I think we need to do. And so I've really just kind of taken ownership on my own of, and having really strong leadership support to back me up, but taking ownership of influencers and saying, okay, I'm going to own the strategy for the business. I'm going to build out what that looks like for our organization, and everyone's going to follow me. And it hasn't been easy.
Mm.
And then, showcasing what that means. What does it mean to have this sort of cohesive, platform that everyone can leverage, and who owns what, and how does it all work? And really just taking a step back instead of trying to kind of come at everybody like a tornado of like, let's do this. It's like, let's take a step back, let's explain it, and then we can all move forward. And I think with that approach, it has really helped with teams leaning in more. It's helped my team scale. We're getting more content, and we're building our community, and it's not just one team, getting all the credit. It's everyone. It takes everyone to kind of build this and grow it, but it's not being afraid to sort of just own it.
I think that that's great advice. Is that what you would, for the brands that aren't at the level of Amazon or Amazon Music, let's say, what advice would you give them to help them to integrate these teams so that they work more strategically together and not in silos?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should always start small, no matter how big you are. And I did, believe it or not, because you want to understand first before you go ask for the big bucks. And you might not have a lot to ask for. And with everything that I've built, I haven't had budget for, but I've started small, I've tested, I've doubled down on my success areas, and it's a learning curve. And believe it or not, if you start extremely small, you're faced with several challenges along the way that help you get to the right place that you need to be. And it might be really frustrating. If you don't have a big budget, you can start with like paying on CPA. And I think that that's like a really powerful thing where now more than ever, I mean, affiliate tracking is always important, but affiliate tracking is really the partnership automation engine that can scalably track and pay any type of partnership. And it really comes into play with influencers, where if you don't have a big budget, but you can pay a bounty or a commission, start that way. Find the advocates that will promote you that way while you build your case to have more budget, and then just keep scaling as you go, and like finding ways to partner with other teams who might have budget too. So not just staying in your own silo, but become best friends with like the paid social team, or go ask other teams for budget and partnerships. I also think that, I can't emphasize enough, like having a place to send your creators to learn about their requirements, to be your ambassadors for your organization, and just continuing to build that community. If you don't have a community of partners, or you don't start and you don't try, then you're never going to have a program. And I think for me, it was like, okay, let's create a program. And I'm like, where do I begin? Because there's so much, right? But you have to compartmentalize like the three big things that you can control, and then just keep going from there. Because if you psych yourself out that you have to be big right away, or that you can't start small, then you're never going to start. So
I think,
that'd be
really good advice. And the CPA side of things is a really good way to kind of get your feet wet on this. And that is essentially when an influencer, in this case, let's say, does have a vanity code, and someone were to click on a link and type in that vanity code and buy something as a result of seeing it in the influencer's post or story, then that influencer is getting commission on the sale versus the flat fee where they just get paid out for the content. And there's no performance element. So adding that performance element is budget that's likely not to get cut, because there's positive return on investment. And any time, but especially in times of macroeconomic, concerns, and people being afraid of job security and things like that, it becomes a lot more important to focus on channels that deliver. So I think that that's a really, really strong advice. We're nearing the end here. I only have 2 questions left. These are open. So what other resources, such as technology or agency, have been helpful in running the cross collaborative programs that you guys have mentioned? We've talked about tech a lot. What other resources do you think have been helpful?
On our end, I'm just going to start by saying that Impact did not pay me to say this, but we have tried some other programs specifically for tracking creator marketing, and although they've got their benefits to it. We've recently launched with Creator Program, and honestly, it's fantastic. We really love it, and we're able to see the full funnel, which is what I wanted, right? We really want to see that ROI down to the sale or the user journey. So that has really been fantastic for us.
And I haven't paid you yet, wink, wink. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, with the fact that we have sort of this partnership automation engine, I think it's really important to emphasize that you still need to fuel your program with human relationships and not algorithms. And I think that, you need to lean in and make sure that, yes, you have the technology, but that you also have the business development in place to really grow your pipeline and really have those one-on-one relationship building opportunities to recruit, to optimize, to grow your program. And it should be treated, I think influencers should be treated and not short-sighted, just like affiliates. Like you have your affiliate, business development managers, you need influencer business development managers, because there's a lot more hand-holding with influencers than affiliates. And you are selling your program short if you don't lean into this area.
Yeah, I think that that's really good advice. Affiliates have been in this world for a long time. They are conversion experts, and influencers are learning in a lot of ways, although many of them have caught up. I can see that over the past 10 years, affiliate marketing has become more of a exercise for them, more of a marketing tactic for them in the past. Let's end with a fun one. Tell me the most creative campaign that you've run leveraging both affiliates and influencers, and then if there's any last remarks that you might have too. But let's start with creativity. What have been some creative campaigns?
Oh, we've got one that I think the team still has nightmares over. We had our first flash sale that was happening, and our CMO at the time said, you know what, let's get 100. He's like, no, let's get 200 creators to post the same day about the flash sale coming up. This team worked so hard for 2 months, and they didn't have that much time. Back then, we didn't have that many contracts in place. It wasn't automated. It was all manual at that time. It was a nightmare, but they got it all together. I don't know how they did it, but they did an awesome job. They got it all together. And I would say a majority of these influencers posted on that one day of the flash sale. We have no idea how it did because there was no conversion tracking at that time, but we think it did well because the flash sale was very successful. But yeah, we won't do that again.
That sounds like a lot of work to do.
It was a lot of work on them. Yeah.
People, wow, that's ambitious, but I'm sure it went great. What about you, Whit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have one favorite thing, but I think what's been the most exciting is that, our product, I think, influencers have to get really creative. We're selling a subscription product. And so just seeing like all the creativity that people integrate into their video content is so just unbelievable. So it's been really cool to see like who are our advocates and who love the brand. But I do have just a funny story of why I'll probably never be an influencer is when we were in Miami at the influencer event for Impact last year, and I asked the influencers if they'd take a picture with all of us. And they whipped out all their cameras and lights, and I was just like so overwhelmed. I just wanted a quick photo on my cell phone. But you can just see from that moment, the attention to detail and the creativity and the passion that they have behind the content really was so powerful to me in that moment of like, wow, they are good at what they do, and this is why they are here, so.
No, that's a really interesting one. I always enjoy talking to influencers and understanding that world because it's just so interesting. And I think everyone wants to know how to make it as an influencer and how to pay influencers. And there's just a lot of sort of mystery still around the industry. So I think it's really fun to explore all the different strategies. And I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I learned a ton. So thank you, Jen and Whitney. Really appreciate your time. Any last remarks?
For me, I really enjoyed this, and I just think there's so much content out there right now with to help those consumers make that right decision. So keep learning every day as marketers. We've got to keep going out there and learning what's out there because that ecosystem is changing all the time. And like right now, TikTok Shop is the big thing. So we've got to stay on our toes and keep learning and evolving.
Yep, that's great. Anything
Yeah, and I think for me, just don't be afraid to fail, like and just own it. And you can be a leader within your organization with partnership automation, and it's really the way of our future. So I've kind of just owned that, hey, you have a partnership, come to us and we can help you and we can all work together. So look at yourself as kind of this powerhouse with the technology that you have to really make an impact in your organization.
That's great. And that's what we all want to do. So thank you for sharing that, Whitney. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you to the audience for staying on and listening to us. Really appreciate it. We're going to follow up with a content piece, kind of discussing all these different topics that we reviewed today. But I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thanks
Thank
for having me.
you. Thanks for having us.